Again. Live. Ooh! I think it's working. Is it working? I hope we're having better luck right now. I think this looks promising. Yeah. Yep, it works! Victory! Woo! I guess we had to just reboot the stream. Have you tried turning it off and on again? Yeah, well, I guess that was the trick. So welcome, welcome. Good to have you. Now we're finally really here. How has your week been? Anything been up to? Any stuff that I should know? Hello, good evening, Baron Cat. Stressful, you say. What's going on right now? Oof. 3 co-workers sick. I hope you're not the last man standing. Or the last cat standing. Not Rona. Oh, luckily. Then hopefully they'll be better soon. But I know how you're feeling. Due to some circumstance, yeah, like it's not a circumstance, but it's just not purposely. I have 2 colleagues, and they're both either getting promoted or going to another job somewhere else. So I have 2 less colleagues as well, and we're with the 3 of us in the marketing team. So I have a lot of conversations with my manager on how we're going to move forward. Tomorrow after lunch, you are the last man standing. Well, soldier on, I guess. I'll be with you in spirit. Alone after 12. Yeah. For how long will you be alone? Just the entire day, or will it be the entire rest of the week? By the way, if anybody here happens to know a marketeer who is looking for a new job, I'm in desperate need of fun colleagues. Good. Well, if you have some extra support, that makes it a lot easier. I also luckily have a very good manager. Yeah, and that definitely helps. Thursday and Friday will be stressful. Yeah, I understand. Will you be alone both days? Yeah, tomorrow after 12, but Friday as well? Friday as well. Oh, good luck. Good luck. Let's see, where did we leave off last time? I think we ended here, right? Yes, it works. Welcome back. Old age day off. That's a good thing. Tension building. Ouderdomsverlof. Yeah, well, isn't that parenting day off? Or oh no, like no. Um, wait. English and Dutch mixing doesn't work. I get what you're. Yeah, it translates to old age days off. Ah, yeah. I hadn't heard of that, but cool that it exists in some jobs that is that is probably not a luxury, just very much needed. There. After 60, you get a day off, but with a small pay cut. When you are 62, you get the day off with pay intact. All right. All right. Well, I'm not there yet, so. But if things go according to plan, I'll get there eventually. Yeah, you neither. That's why you have to work tomorrow. Phoenicia says, I'm at the moment still sewing on sequences to my skirt. Already past 1/4. Alright, you're doing that by hand, just one by one. That is a lot of work. But sequences are so much fun. Okay, Phils, I'm never touching your money. It's like what, Phils? What is more dangerous? Touching your money or touching your food from your plate? Stealing it. Like I I know these two things are both terrible crimes. They're horrendous, and no human should attempt either one of these. But which one is worse? I wonder. And oh, you can share food. All right. Oh, cool. Yeah. World is a little bit safer now. I keep on hearing these stories from Jay that um, be, of matches, food wars between him and his father. They're very entertaining. So that's something maybe you should tell about sometimes on a stream, because when he starts about it, it's a lot of fun. You see that twinkle? Baron Cat says, stealing food, it could be that the person is in dire straits and tries to survive. Stealing money, it is more to gain more income, and there are better ways to get money than stealing. Yeah, but um, I meant the question. Um, you're correct. I agree. But the way I meant it is, if somebody sits across to you at home or in a restaurant and tries to steal your food from your platter, like, ooh, did you order that? How is it? and then just goes for it with a fork. Mind if I try? Alright. Shall we start with the first story? First story of today. Dog and you share food in restaurant many times. Alright, but you you share and you don't steal, or is it a match? Yeah, get your own food, yeah. No, it would be really weird if strangers did that, right? That would be super awkward and super weird. Some kind of oh, that sounds like some comedians would do that, like some candid camera situation. And if you don't get angry, you get a sum of money or something like that. Because that is an achievement if that happened. And you stay patient. Oh, you get the win-win situation. My mom also doesn't like tomatoes. So I get extra veggies as well. Right. Yeah, but with tomato soup and tomato sauce, there are a lot of extra spices added. So maybe that's it. That you do like it in combination, but don't like the taste of it as it is. Like you like everything else about the tomato soup, but not the tomato. And you'll deal with the tomato in the soup. All right. So last time we ended on the ship, and they saw the island where the treasure island. But just before they got there, they discovered like there was gonna be a coup, a mutiny. And now they were planning how to survive this. And part 3 is when they get to go on to the shore. How my shore adventure began. The appearance of the island, when I came on deck next morning, was altogether changed. Although the breeze had now utterly ceased, we had made a great deal of way during the night, and were now lying becalmed about half a mile to the southeast of the low eastern coast. Grey-coloured woods covered a large part of the surface. This even tint was indeed broken up by streaks of yellow sandbreak in the lower lands, and by many tall trees of the pine family, outtopping the others, some singly, some in clumps, but the general colouring was uniform and sad. The hills ran up clear above the vegetation, in spires of naked rock. All were strangely shaped, and the spyglass, which was by 300 or 400 feet the tallest on the island, was likewise the strangest in configuration, running up sheer from almost every side, and then suddenly cut off at the top, like a pedestal to put a statue on. The Hispaniola was rolling scuppers under the ocean swell. The booms were tearing at the blocks, The rudder was banging to and fro, and the whole ship creaking, groaning, and jumping like a manufactory. I had to cling tight to the backstay, and the world turned giddily before my eyes. For though I was a good enough sailor when there was way on, this standing still and being rolled about like a bottle was a thing I never learned to stand without a qualm or so, above all in the morning, on an empty stomach. Perhaps it was like this. Perhaps it was the look of the island, with its grey, melancholy woods and wild stone spires, and the surf that we could both see and hear foaming and thundering on the steep beach. At least, although the sun shone bright and hot, at the shore birds were fishing and crying all around us, and you would have thought anyone would have been glad to get to land after being so long at sea. My heart sank, as the saying is, into my boots, and from the first look onward, I hated the very thought of Treasure Island. We had a dreary morning's work before us, for there was no sign of any wind. And the boats had to be got out and manned, and the ship warped 3 or 4 miles round the corner of the island and up the narrow passage to the haven behind Skeleton Island. I volunteered for one of the boats, where I had, of course, no business. The heat was sweltering, and the men grumbled fiercely over their work. Anderson was in command of my boat, and instead of keeping the crew in order, he grumbled as loud as the worst. "Well," he said with an oath, "it's not forever." I thought it was a very bad sign, for up to that day the men had gone briskly and willingly about their business. But the very sight of the island had relaxed the cords of discipline. All the way in, Long John stood by the steersman and conned the ship. He knew the passage like the palm of his hand, and though the man in the chains got everywhere more water than was down in the chart, John never hesitated once. "There's a strong scour with the ebb," he said, "and this here passage has been dug out, in a manner of speaking, with a spade." We brought up just where the anchor was in the chart, about 1/3 of a mile from each shore, the mainland on one side and Skeleton Island on the other. The bottom was clean sand. The plunge of our anchor sent up clouds of birds wheeling and crying over the woods, but in less than a minute they were down again, and all was once more silent. The place was entirely landlocked, buried in the woods, the trees coming right down to high water mark, the shores mostly flat, and the hilltops standing round at a distance in a sort of amphitheatre, one here, one there. 2 little rivers, or rather 2 swamps, emptied out into this pond, as you might call it, and the foliage round that part of the shore had a kind of poisonous brightness. From the ship we could see nothing of the house or stockade, for they were quite buried among trees, and if it had not been for the chart on the companion, we might have been the first that had ever anchored there since the island arose out of the seas. There was not a breath of air moving, nor a sound but that of the surf booming 1/2 a mile away along the beaches, and against the rocks outside. A peculiar, stagnant smell hung over the anchorage, a smell of sodden leaves and rotting tree trunks. I observed the doctor sniffing and sniffing, like someone tasting a bad egg. "I don't know about treasure," he said, "but I'll stake my wigs there's fever here." If the conduct of the men had been alarming in the boat, it became truly threatening when they had come aboard. They lay about the deck, growling together in talk. The slightest order was received with a black look and grudgingly and carelessly obeyed. Even the honest hands must have caught the infection, for there was not one man aboard to mend another. Mutiny, it was plain, hung over us like a thundercloud. And it was not only we of the cabin party who perceived the danger. Long John was hard at work, going from group to group, spending himself in good advice, and as for example no man could have shown a better. He fairly outstripped himself in willingness and civility. He was all smiles to everyone. If an order were given, John would be on his crutch in an instant, with the cheeriest "Aye, aye, sir!" in the world, and when there was nothing else to do, he kept up one song after another, as if to conceal the discontent of the rest. Of all the gloomy features of that gloomy afternoon, his obvious anxiety on part of Long John appeared the worst. We held a council in the cabin. "Sir," asked the captain, "if I risk another order, the whole ship'll come about our ears by the run. You see, sir, here it is. I get a rough answer, do I not? Well, if I speak back, pikes will be going in 2 shakes. If I don't, Silver will see there's something under that, and the game's up. Now, we've only one man to rely on." "And who's that?" asked the choir. "Silver, sir," returned the captain. "He's as anxious as you and I, to smother things up. 'Tis a little tiff. He'd soon talk 'em out of it if he had the chance. And what I propose to do is to give him the chance. Let's allow the men an afternoon ashore. If they all go, why, we'll fight the ship. If they none of them go, well then, we hold the cabin, and God defend the right. If some go, you mark my words, sir, Silver will bring 'em aboard again as mild as lambs." It was so decided. Loaded pistols were served out to all the sure men. Hunter, Joyce, and Redworth were taken into our confidence, and received the news with less surprise and a better spirit than we had looked for, and then the captain went on deck and addressed the crew. "My lads," said he, "we've had a hot day, and are all tired out of sorts. A turn ashore'll hurt nobody. The boats are still in the water. You can take the gigs, and as many as please may go ashore for the afternoon. I'll fire a gun half an hour before sundown." I believe the silly fellows must have thought they would break their shins over treasure as soon as they were landed, for they all came out of their sulks in a moment, and gave a cheer that started the echo in a far-away hill, and sent the birds once more flying and squalling round the anchorage. The captain was too bright to be in the way. He whipped out of sight in a moment, leaving Silver to arrange the party, and I fancy it was well he did so. Had he been on deck, he could no longer so much as have pretended not to understand the situation. It was plain as day. Silver was the captain, and a mighty, rebellious crew he had of it. The honest hands, and I was soon to see it proved that there were such on board, must have been very stupid fellows. Or rather, I suppose the truth was this, that all hands were disaffected by the example of the ringleaders, only some more, some less, and a few, being good fellows in the main, could neither be led nor driven any further. It is one thing to be idle and skulk, and quite another to take a ship and murder a number of innocent men. At last, however, the party was made up. 6 fellows were to stay on board, and the remaining 13, including Silver, began to embark. Then it was that there came into my head the first of the mad notions that contributed so much to save our lives. If 6 men were left by Silver, it was plain our party could not take and fight the ship. And since only 6 were left, it was equally plain that the cabin party had no present need of my assistance. It occurred to me at once to go ashore. In a jiffy I had slipped over the side and curled up in the foresheets of the nearest boat, and almost at the same moment she shoved off. No one took notice of me, only the bow oar saying, "Is that you, Jim? Keep your head down." But Silver, from the other boat, looked sharply over and called out to know if that were me, and from that moment I began to regret what I had done. The crews raced for the beach, but the boat I was in, having some start and being once the lighter and the better manned, shot far ahead of our consort, and the bow had struck among the short-side trees, and I had caught a branch and swung myself out and plunged into the nearest thicket, while Silver and the rest were still 100 yards behind. "Jim! Jim!" I heard him shouting, but you may suppose I paid no heed. Jumping, ducking, and breaking through, I ran straight before my nose till I could run no longer. Main characters always get themselves in trouble, right? It's one of the things they're very good at. They always have, they're always doing the right thing. Unless it drives the plot forward, then they do the stupidest thing. Want to know what happens? What happens next? I do. So let's continue. Yeah, it makes things happen. I always find the tension like, no, don't do it. And it's such a difference, because how can they simultaneously be the only one who can have the idea that solves it in the end, but at the same time be the one that's making all the stupid mistakes at the start. Oh, but maybe, perhaps they get wiser through the story, but that depends. Sometimes it's believable, sometimes it's I don't know. More a plot thing than a well-rounded character thing. The first blow. I was so pleased at having given the slip to Long John that I began to enjoy myself and look around me with some interest on the strange land that I was in. I had crossed a marshy tract full of willows, bulrushes, and odd, outlandish, swampy trees. And I had now come out upon the skirts of an open piece of undulating, sandy country about a mile long, dotted with a few pines and a great number of contorted trees, not unlike the oak in growth, but pale in foliage, like willows. On the far side of the open stood one of the hills, with two quaint, craggy peaks shining vividly in the sun. I now felt for the first time the joy of exploration. The isle was uninhabited. My shipmates I had left behind, and nothing lived in front of me but dumb brutes and fowls. I turned hither and thither among the trees. Here and there were flowering plants, unknown to me. Here and there I saw snakes, and one raised his head from a ledge of rock and hissed at me with a noise not unlike the spinning of a top. Little did I suppose that he was a deadly enemy, and that the noise was the famous rattle. Then I came to a long thicket of these oak-like trees, lithe or evergreen, oaks. I heard afterwards they should be called. Like, wait a minute, oak-like trees? Oaks they should be called. Which grew along the sand like brambles, the boughs curiously twisted, the foliage compact like thatch. The thicket stretched down from the top of one of the sandy knolls, spreading and growing taller as it went, until it reached the margin of the broad, reedy fen, through which the nearest of the little rivers soaked its way into the anchorage. The marsh was steaming in the strong sun, and the outline of the spyglass trembled through the haze. All at once there began to go a sort of bustle among the bulrushes. A wild duck flew up with a quack, another followed, and soon over the whole surface of the marsh a great cloud of birds hung screaming and circling in the air. I judged at once that some of my shipmates must be drawing near along the borders of the fen. Nor was I deceived, for soon I heard the very distant and low tones of a human voice, which, as I continued to give ear, grew steadily louder and nearer. This put me in a great fear, and I crawled under cover of the nearest live oak, and squatted there, hearkening, as silent as a mouse. Another voice answered, and then the first voice, which I now recognized to be Silver's, once more took up the story and ran on for a long while in a stream, only now and again interrupted by the other. By the sound they must have been talking earnestly, and almost fiercely, but no distinct word came to my hearing. At last the speakers seemed to have paused, and perhaps to have sat down, for not only did they cease to draw any nearer, but the birds themselves began to grow more quiet, and to settle down to their places in the swamp. And now I began to feel that I was neglecting my business, that since I had been so foolhardy as to come ashore with these desperadoes, the least I could do was overhear them at their counsels, and that my plain and obvious duty was to draw as close as I could manage, under the favourable ambush of the crouching trees. I could tell the direction of the speakers pretty exactly, not only by the sound of their voices, but by the behaviour of the few birds that still hung in alarm above the heads of the intruders. crawling on all fours, I made steadily but slowly towards them, till at last, raising my head to an aperture among the leaves, I could see clear down into a little green dell beside the marsh, and closely set about with trees, where Long John Silver and another of the crew stood face to face in conversation. The sun beat full upon them. Silver had thrown his head beside him on the ground, and his great, smooth, blond face, all shining with heat, was lifted to the other man's in a kind of appeal. "Mate," he was saying, "it's because I thinks gold dust of you. Gold dust. And you may lay to that. If I hadn't took to you like pitch, do you think I'd have been here a warning of you? All's up. You can't make nor mend. It's to save your neck that I'm a-speaking, and if one of the wild ones knew it, where I'd be, Tom, now tell me, where I'd be." "Silver," said the other man, and I observed he was not only red in the face, but spoke as hoarse as a crow, and his voice shook too, like the taut rope. "Silver," says he, "you're old and you're honest, or has the name for it, and you've money too, with lots of poor sailors hasn't, and you're brave, or I'm mistook. And will you tell me you'll let yourself be led away with that kind of a mess of swabs? Not you. And sure as God sees me, I'd sooner lose my hand if I turn agin my duty." And then all of a sudden he was interrupted by a noise. I had found one of the honest hands. Well, here, at the same moment, came news of another. Far away, out in the marsh, there arose, all of a sudden, a sound like the cry of anger, and then another on the back of it, and then one horrid, long-drawn scream. The rocks of the spyglass re-echoed it a score of times. The whole troop of marsh birds rose again, darkening heaven with a simultaneous whir, and long after that death yell was still ringing in my brain, silence had re-established its empire, and only the rustle of the redescending birds and the boom of the distant surges disturbed the languor of the afternoon. Tom had leaped at the sound, like a horse at the spur, but Silver had not winked an eye. He stood where he was, resting lightly on his crutch, watching his companion like a snake about to spring. "John!" said the sailor, stretching out his hand. "Hands off!" cried Silver, leaping back a yard, as it seemed to me, with the speed and security of a trained gymnast. "Hands off, if you like, John Silver," said the other. "It's a black conscience that can make you feared of me. But in heaven's name, tell me, what was that?" "That," returned Silver, smiling away, but wearier than ever, his eye a mere pinpoint in his big face, but gleaming like a crumb of glass. "That? Oh, I reckon that'll be Allen." And at this point, Tom flashed out like a hero. "Allen!" he cried. "Then rest his soul for a true seaman. And as for you, John Silver, long you've been a mate of mine, but you're a mate of mine no more. If I die like a dog, I'll die in my duty. You've killed Allen, have you? Kill me too, if you can. But I defies you." And with that, This brave fellow turned his back directly on the cook and set off walking for the beach. But he was not destined to go far. With a cry, John seized the branch of a tree, whipped the crutch out of his armpit, and sent that uncouth missile hurtling through the air. It struck poor Tom, point foremost, and with stunning violence, right between the shoulders in the middle of his back. His hands flew up. He gave a sort of gasp and fell. Whether he were injured much or little, none could ever tell. Like enough to judge from the sound, his back was broken on the spot. But he had no time given him to recover. Silver, agile as a monkey, even without leg or crutch, was on top of him the next moment, and had twice buried his knife up to the hilt in that defenseless body. From my place of ambush, I could hear him plant aloud as he struck the blows. I do not know what it rightly is to faint, but I do know that for the next little while the whole world swam away from before me in a whirling mist. Silver and the birds, and the tall spyglass hilltop, going round and topsy-turvy before my eyes, and all manner of bells ringing and distant voices shouting in my ear. When I came again to myself, the monster had pulled himself together, his crutch under his arm, his hat upon his head. Just before him Tom lay motionless upon the sward, but the murderer minded him not a whit, glancing his blood-stained knife while upon a wisp of grass. Everything else was unchanged. The sun still shining mercilessly on the steaming marsh and the tall pinnacle of the mountain, and I could scarce persuade myself that murder had been actually done, and a human life cruelly cut short a moment since before my eyes. But now John put his hand into his pocket, brought out a whistle, and blew upon it several modulated blasts that rang far across the heated air. I could not tell, of course, the meaning of the signal, but it instantly awoke my fears. More men would be coming. I might be discovered. They had already slain 2 of the honest people, and Tom and Ellen. Might not I come next? Instantly I began to extricate myself and crawl back again, with what speed and silence I could manage, to the more open portion of the wood. As I did so, I could hear hails coming and going between the old buccaneer and his comrades, and this sound of danger lent me wings. As soon as I was clear of the thicket, I ran as I never ran before, scarce minding the direction of my flight, so long as it led me from the murderers, and as I ran, fear grew and grew upon me, until it turned into a kind of frenzy. Indeed, would anyone be more entirely lost than I? When the gun fired, how should I dare to go down to the boats among those fiends, still smoking from their crime? Would not the first of them who saw me wring my neck like a snipe's? Would not my absence itself be an evidence to them of my alarm, and therefore of my fatal knowledge? It was all over, I thought. Goodbye to the Hispaniola. Goodbye to the squire, the doctor, and the captain. There was nothing left for me but death by starvation, or death by the hands of the mutineers. All this while, as I say, I was running, and without taking any notice, I had drawn near to the foot of the little hill with the two peaks, and had got it into a part of the island where the live oaks grew more widely apart and seemed more like forest trees in their bearing and dimensions. Mingled with these were a few scattered pines, some 50, some nearer 70 feet high. The air too smelled more freshly than down beside the marsh. And here a fresh alarm brought me to a standstill with a thumping heart. Alright, Farrell says, I think I'm more familiar with gentler versions of Long John Silver. Yeah, that happens a lot. Just like with fairy tales. Uh, the fairy tales we know versus the originals, it's quite a difference. The originals are often darker. And so this Long John Silver definitely has a bit of a dark edge himself. Quite dark. But let's see what the next thing to fear is. The man of the island. From the side of the hill, which was here steep and stony, a spout of gravel was dislodged and fell rattling and bounding through the trees. My eyes turned instinctively in that direction, and I saw a figure leap with great rapidity behind the trunk of a pine. What it was, whether bear or man or monkey, I could in no wise tell. It seemed dark and shaggy. More I knew not, but the terror of this new apparition brought me to a stand. It was now, it seemed, cut off upon both sides. Behind me the murderers, before me this lurking nondescript, and immediately I began to prefer the dangers that I knew to those I knew not. Silver himself appeared less terrible in contrast with this creature of the woods, and I turned on my heel, and looking sharply behind me over my shoulder, began to retrace my steps in the direction of the boats. Instantly the figure reappeared, and making a wide circuit, began to head me off. I was tired at any rate, but I had been as fresh as when I rose. But had I been as fresh as when I rose, I could see it was in vain for me to contend in speed with such an adversary. From trunk to trunk, the creature flitted like a deer, running man-like on two legs, but unlike any man that I had ever seen, stooping almost double as it ran. Yet a man it was. I could no longer be in doubt about that. I began to recall what I had heard of cannibals. I was within an ace of calling for help, but the mere fact that he was a man, however wild, had somewhat reassured me, and my fear of Silver began to revive in proportion. I stood still, therefore, and cast about for some method of escape. And as I was so thinking, the recollection of my pistol flashed into my mind. As soon as I remembered I was not defenseless, courage growled again in my heart, and I set my face resolutely for this man of the island, and walked briskly towards him. He was concealed by this time behind another tree trunk, but he must have been watching me closely, for as soon as I began to move in his direction, he reappeared and took a step to meet me. Then he hesitated, drew back, came forward again, and at last, to my wonder and confusion, threw himself on his knees and held out his clasped hands in supplication. At that, I once more stopped. "Who are you?" I asked. "Been gone," he answered, and his voice sounded hoarse and awkward, like a rusty lock. "I'm poor Ben Gunn, I am, and I haven't spoke with a Christian these 3 years." I could now see that he was a white man like myself, and that his features were even pleasing. His skin, wherever it was exposed, was burnt by the sun. Even his lips were black, and his fair eyes looked quite startling in so dark a face. Of all the beggarmen that I had seen or fancied, he was the chief for raggedness. He was clothed with tatters of old ship's canvas and old sea cloth, and this extraordinary patchwork was all held together by a system of the most various and incongruous fastenings. Brass buttons, bit of stick, and loops of terry gaskin. About his waist he wore an old brass-buckled leather belt, which was the one thing solid in his whole accoutrement. 3 years? I cried. Were you shipwrecked? Nay, mate, said he. Marooned. Good night, Baron Cat. I had heard the word, and I knew it stood for a horrible kind of punishment, common enough among the buccaneers, in which the offender is put ashore with a little powder and shot, and left behind on some desolate and distant island. Marooned 3 years agone, he continued, and lived on goats since then, and berries, and oysters. Wherever a man is, says I, a man can do for himself. But mate, my heart is sore for Christian diet. You mightn't happen to have a piece of cheese about you now? No? Well, many's the long night I've dreamed of cheese. Toasted, mostly. And woke up again, and here I were. If ever I can get aboard again, said I, you shall have cheese by the stone. All this time he had been feeling the stuff of my jacket, smoothing my hands, looking at my boots, and generally, in the intervals of his speech, showing a childish pleasure in the presence of a fellow creature. But at my last words, he perked up into a kind of startled slyness. If ever you can get aboard again, says you, he repeated. Why, now, who's to hinder you? Not you, I know, was my reply. And right you was, he cried. Now you, what do you call yourself, mate? Jim, I told him. Jim, Jim, says he, quite pleased apparently. Well now, Jim, I've lived that rough as you'd be ashamed to hear of. Now, for instance, since you wouldn't think I had had a pious mother to look at me, he asked. Why, no, not in particular, I answered. Ah, well, said he, but I had, remarkable pious, and I was a civil pious boy, and could rattle off my catechism that fast as you couldn't tell one word from another. And here's what it's come to, Jim. And it begun with Chuck farting on the blessed gravestones. That's what it begun with. But it went further than that. And so my mother told me, and predict the whole, she did, the pious woman. But it were Providence that put me here. I've thought it all out in this here lonely island, and I'm back on piety. You don't catch me tasting rum so much, but just a thimbleful for luck, of course. The first chance I have. I'm bound I'll be good, and I'll see the way to go. I'll see the way to. And Jim, looking all around him and lowering his voice to a whisper, I'm rich. I now felt sure that the poor fellow had gone crazy in his solitude, and I suppose I must have shown the feeling in my face, for he repeated his statement hotly. Rich! Rich, I says, and I'll tell you what, I'll make a man of you, Jim. Ha, Jim, you'll bless your stars, you will. You was the first that found me. And at this there came suddenly a lowering shadow over his face, and he tightened his grasp upon my hand, and raised a forefinger threateningly before my eyes. Now, Jim, you tell me true. That ain't Flint's ship? He asked. At this I had a happy inspiration. I began to believe that I had found an ally, and I answered him at once. It's not Flint's ship, and Flint is dead. But I'll tell you true, as you ask me. There are some of Flint's hands aboard, whose luck, worse luck for the rest of us. Not a man with one leg, he gasped. Silver, I asked. Ah, Silver, says he. That were his name. He's the cook, and the ringleader too. He was still holding me by the wrist, and at that he gave it quite a wring. If you was sent by Long John, he said, I'm as good as pork, and I know it. But where was you, do you suppose? I had made my mind up in a moment, and by the way of answer told him the whole story of our voyage and the predicament in which we found ourselves. He heard me with the keenest interest, and when I had done, he patted me on the head. You're a good lad, Jim, he said, and you're all in a clovage, ain't you? Well, you just put your trust in Ben Gunn. Ben Gunn's the man to do it. Would you think it likely now that your squire will prove a liberal-minded one in case of help? Him being in the clovage, as you remark? I told him the squire was the most liberal of men. Aye, but you see, returned Ben Gunn, I didn't mean giving me a gate to keep, and a suit of livery clothes, and such. That's not my mark, Jim. What I mean is, would he be likely to come down to the tune of, say, £1,000 out of money that's as good as a man's own already? I am sure he would, said I. As it was, all hands were to share. And the passage home? He added with a look of great shrewdness. Why, I cried, the squire's a gentleman, and besides, if we got rid of the others, we should want you to help work the vessel home. Ah, said he, so you would, and he seemed very much relieved. Now I tell you what, he went on, so much I'll tell you, and no more. If I were in Flint's ship when he buried the treasure, he and 6 along, 6 strong seamen, there was ashore nigh on a week, and us standing off and on in the old Walrus. One fine day up went the signal, and here come Flint by himself in a little boat, and his head done up in a blue scarf. The sun was getting up, and mortal white he looked about the cut water. But there he was, you mind, and the 6 all dead, dead and buried. How he done it, not a man aboard us could make out. It was battle, murder, and sudden death, leastways. Him against 6. Billy Bones was the mate. Long John, he was the quartermaster, and they asked him where the treasure was. Ah, says he, you can go ashore if you like, and stay, he says, but as for the ship, she'll be up for more, by thunder. That's what he said. Well, I was in another ship 3 years back, and we sighted this island. Boys, said I, here's Flint's treasure. Let's land and find it. The captain was displeased at that, but my chessmates were all of a mind and landed. 12 days they looked for it, and every day they had the worst word for me, until one fine morning all hands went aboard. As for you, Benjamin Gunn, says they, here's a musket, they says, and a spade, and pickaxe. You can stay here and find Flint's money for yourself, they says. Well, Jim, 3 years have I been here, and not a bite of Christian diet from that day to this. But now, you look here, look at me. Do I look like a man before the mast? No, says you. Nor I weren't neither, I says. And with that he winked and pinched me hard. Just you mention them words to your squire, Jim, he went on. Nor ye weren't neither, that's the words. 3 years he were the man of this island, light and dark, fair and rain, and sometimes he would maybe think upon a prayer, says you, and sometimes he would maybe think of his old mother. So be as she's alive, you'll say. But the most part of Gunn's time, this is what you'll say, the most part of his time was took up with another matter. And then you'll give him a nip, like I do. And he pinched me again in the most confidential manner. Then, he continued, then you'll up, and then you'll say this. Gunn is a good man, you'll say, and he puts a precious sight more confidence. A precious sight, mind that. In a gentleman born than these gentlemen of fortune, having been one himself. Hello, Phil. How are you? Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the stream. So good to have you. Tomato raid. Woo! Amazing. Hello, everyone. How are you? How has Phil's stream been? I see a lot of enthusiasm. Oh, it must have been good. 100. Just dropping my lovelies to come meet you. I can't stay long. Drank something bad and I need to go. Ooh, take care of yourself, Phil. Drank something bad. No, just well, hello, lovelies then. So good to have you. Coconut juice. All right. Well, I'm reading a pirate story. I had to think about the stuff that all the rum that the pirates drink, but I understood from his message that that was not the kind of bad that he meant. He didn't mean the good kind of bad. No. those coconuts. Well, we're reading Treasure Island, and it's not. Um, Treasure Island is, uh, most of you will know, about pirates, and they're looking for a treasure on an island. But it's not much of a tropical island, so no coconuts there. But they do have rattlesnakes and pirates on the loose. What's bad about coconut juice? Well, I don't know. If the coconut has gone bad, then maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's tricky. Ooh, Coke. Coke and coconut. Is that one of those typical bad combinations that that you know things that you'll definitely regret? I uh, I've always heard that you cannot drink some kind, cannot mix some combinations, like whether it's alcoholic or non-alcoholic. Some liquids just don't mix well. Well, what just happened in our story is that our main character Jim has gone ashore at Treasure Island with the pirates that are about to overtake the ship, and they want to steal the treasure and be off. And Long John Silver, their leader, has just um, killed all the honest people that went on shore as well. And Jim has been spying them, and he knows that he's next. So he's run away, and he found uh, a character called Ben Gunn, and he has been marooned. He has been left on the island um, for 3 years to fend for himself. And he says that he has found the famous treasure, or at least that's what he's hinting about. And he's asking Jim to give him a ride home on the ship that Jim cannot return to anymore. So Jim is trying to be smart and get this guy to help him to get onto the ship. And the guy, Ben Gunn, is trying to be smart and trying to persuade Jim to let him come aboard and actually make him help him get to home, and he'll share the treasure. So that's kind of what they're talking about. And so Ben Gunn says that Jim has to uh, tell some things about him to um, let's see, to one of the what's this, the squire. Yeah, the squire. Jim has to persuade the squire. So let's see. Where were we? Then, he continued, then you'll up and you'll say this: Gunn is a good man, you'll say, and he puts a precious sight more confidence. A precious sight, mind that, in a gentleman born than these gentlemen of fortune, having been one himself. Well, I said, I don't understand one word what you've been saying, but that's neither here nor there, for how am I to get on board? Ah, said he, that's the hitch for sure. Well, there's my boat that I made with my 2 hands. I keep her under the white rock. If the worst come to the worst, we might try that after dark. Hi, he broke out. What's that? For just then, although the sun had still an hour or 2 to run, all the echoes of the island awoke and bellowed to the thunder of a cannon. They have begun to fight, I cried. Follow me! And I began to run towards the anchorage, all my terrors forgotten, while close at my side the marooned man in his goatskins trotted easily and lightly. Left, left, says he. Keep to your left hand, mate Jim. Under the trees with you. There's where I killed my first goat. They don't come down here now. They're all mast-headed on the mountains for fear of Benjamin Gunn. Ah, and there's the cemetery. Cemetery, he must have meant. Do you see the mounds? I come here and prayed, nows and thens, when I thought maybe a Sunday would be about due. It weren't quite a chapel, but it seemed more solemn-like. And then, says you, Ben Gunn was short-handed, no chaplain, nor so much as a Bible and a flag, you says. So he kept talking as I ran, neither expecting nor receiving any answer. The cannon shot was followed after a considerable interval by a volley of small arms. Another pause, and then, not a quarter of a mile in front of me, I beheld the Union Jack flutter in the air above a wood. So there's this chapter. The next one. Now we've made it all through chapter 3 in one evening. I like this chapter. It was a lot of action. But voicing all these pirates, it's not really the best thing on your voice. Yeah. How are the kittens doing? The kittens are doing very well. I can, if you give me a moment, I'll go catch one. Just a few seconds. If I go and get one. Oh, yes. Here. Now they wake up. Yeah. Oh, I have one. Here it is. Toe beans. Let me can I show it like this? Yeah. Look the other way, kitty. No. It's so tiny. I'm gonna put it back. There. Go and be with your brothers and sisters. Oh. Also, I'm gonna show another one. because we also have red kitties. There. You're so tiny and cute. There. Gonna put this one back as well with the brothers and sisters. There, that was an adventure. Adventure time. There. Here we are again. Let's see. Very cute. More cute. Nice. Yeah. They're getting cuter every single day. It's so much fun, and they're about to climb out of their box. So I'm actually looking into solutions. Like, can I create a bit of a space for them to walk around safely, because they're gonna be 6 of them. They're gonna be all over my place. And I don't want to accidentally kick a kitten, so I need to do something to keep them in some place, and in a bit of a bench, but until they are fast enough so they don't stumble somewhere. But they're about to start climbing. So they're getting old enough to do that. By the way, oh, how is Lara's reaction on them? Quite good, actually. She first looked at them like, what are these? I don't get it, but she was very curious. And now sometimes she looks into the box and she sniffs a bit, and she looks like, yeah, you guys are weird. You guys are weird. But she's not afraid or angry or any of that. Yeah, she's a big sister, but more of the big sister who's like, yeah, you little ones, don't think you're cool because I'm the only cool one. And she's sleeping right now. I can go and wake her up. Wake her up. Make her say hi. Here she is. Yeah. Brr, 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 brr. Showtime. Yeah. She's purring right now. You probably cannot hear that, but she's having a good time. Yeah, she's cute, and she's a lot bigger. You know, the other kittens I can hold in my hand. This one has grown. She's almost a year now. In April, she'll be 1 year old. So that's getting closer. Gonna have a first birthday. No. She enjoys being in all my meetings with me. Working from home. Really working from home kitty. So what we only have like 2 minutes left, and that's not enough for another chapter. And I guess it's also not enough for the thing we had come up with, Adventure Time on eBay. But I made an account, Alien Cat Mothership. So that's where we're going to make these adventures when we get to them the next time. Ooh, ooh, jump. But yeah, if you guys have an idea of something that we could start off with next time, we can definitely try that. And also the next on Sunday we will have a normal stream again. So yeah, chapter 4 in 2 minutes. Go. Rum. Yeah, done. Let's see. Narrative continued by the doctor. How the ship was abandoned. Yeah, I wonder. This is gonna be another plot twist. And we'll find out during the next story stream. And then for now, let's see. The adventure is still linked to the tip jar. Yeah, yes, definitely. So I'm thinking of next one just being a practice round, and then if that works out, then we can make it a tip jar thing. So yeah. Yeah. Then, do we want to raid today? Because then, let's see. Oh, Densetsu is around. So let's go into his channel and see what he's making today. And for everyone else, I will see you on Sunday. Get ready for the Riot Raid. Bye bye.
What are you doing here? Why? Welcome. Woo! I was getting ahead of that one. Mermaid Phoenicia, lovely. Well, hello guys. I'm Den. Today we are drawing actually fantasy animals. They are all inspired by real life animals that went extinct during the Holocene era. And you can see here in the corner, this is my cat, Mufune. Mufune the cat. He's very happy to see you, I'm sure. Look at how happy he is. Isn't he happy? He has sat here for almost the entire stream, which is unusual for us. You're cute, Phoenicia. Thank you so much for bringing your people here, Howling Riot. I'm so glad to see you. Would you like to add a co-host? We've actually had a whole host of co-hosts. Sorry, co-hosts. There are more than one of them. Oh, it's not working. There should be a command that should bring up all the co-hosts. Oh, the silly boy. Oh, the stretchy boy. Oh my god. Why are all you people here today? It seems like a mite too many. Anyways, like I said, I'm Densetsu. Today we're doing animal drawing, but usually we're doing environment art along the lines of this. This was the environment art we finished about 2 weeks ago. For the same world, all of these animals here inhabit this fantasy world here. How am I doing? I'm doing pretty good. Mifune is being sleepy. I woke up late today because I was up until 4:30 on Monday for board game night, and then I got 5 hours of sleep before getting woken up on Tuesday, and so my body is like, we're going on strike, you're going to sleep this morning. So I may or may not still be in my pajamas. We won't really worry about that part. Anyways, so these are all the animals from the front, and I am slowly both making this logo, and then I'm going to draw them all from the side. Where's your sleeping set? It's getting worse and worse. I'm not going to lie about that. But yeah, so these are them all from the front, and then let's do all the side views as well. The side views are all colored, so you might enjoy this. Missy the cat noodle, heck yeah, cat noodle! For those of you who haven't been here before, we also tend to add co-hosts. Here, Mifune is a new co-host friend just for you. It's Missy the cat noodle. There you go. Mifune is like, excuse me? What? Board game is a good excuse. I mean, I actually had a pretty good excuse, I would say. Oh, back to sleep with him. What a silly cat. No, what had happened was that I had a few friends who... So the board games themselves went till about 3 in the morning. And then a bunch of people wanted to, like... They got into, like, this chat about some, like, trouble, like, life troubles they were having. And, you know, they're good friends of mine, and I wanted to try and, you know, console them as much as I could. So I wanted to stick around and talk through it with them, and it was actually very touching, because after they were, like, all done, they told me, like, oh, whoops, okay. They told me, that, like, after all these troubles that they were having, like, with their lives and at their homes, that they felt like my place was a second home to them, and I felt, like, very, very touched. No one had ever said that to me before. I hope that this stream can feel like a second home for all of you guys. I hope that you all feel... Brought me a spotlight. Oh, water, thank you. I will have some water. Hey, get that out of here! We'll have it on stream tomorrow, though. Thank you, Howling Riot. What did you... Oh, goodness. No mods here today. I hope you guys are all following Howling Riot. What did you do today? What did you guys do today? If you have anything that you drew, let us know. We're just slowly moving through everything. Oh no. Oh, you... Oh wait, what? What? Oh no. Oh no. That could be very bad. That could mean... That could mean that we deleted our art. Yeah, it looks like we... It looks like we deleted the line art at some point for the side. That's okay, we'll just draw it again. Frick, though, that sucks. Well, I guess you guys get to bear witness to this. I spent a long time on that too. I thought it looked good. Oh well. Oh well. Today's story time. Red Treasure Island. Treasure Island. No, that's Pleasure Island. Cool. And you're gonna give this kitty some spotlight. Oh, that's very nice. My kitty likes the spotlight. Can you tell? Why aren't they giving me the spotlight, Dad? I will go upside down in protest. Oh, that sucks. It's okay. It's okay. You guys, it's cool. It's more stuff for me to do while you guys are all here. Now it will look even better. Well, that's the hope. It's possible that it's like in some different folder or something, but that's all right. We'll just make it look better. I'm actually particularly interested in the feet because I think I learned a lot while drawing the tarpan as for how I'd like this these feet to work. As we mentioned briefly, these are all like animals that went extinct in the last 1,000 years, 2,000 years. This is the wara. It was basically an animal that lived. It was like kind of a wolf fox. It lived in the Falkland Islands. Went extinct in the late 1800s. Hello, Crystal! You were a little late, but that's okay. How have you been? Did you get sleep today? Did you come with the raid? Or were you just, like, hanging out? Just woke up? Good morning. All kitties love the spotlight. Yes. Do you have kitties, Mermaid Phoenicia? Yeah. I always like your vibe, Howling Riot. You guys are just the comfiest people. Thanks again for bringing everyone here today. Looks like you had a pretty popular day, which is well deserved. But yeah, so the idea is that all of these characters will feature in like a kind of a game that I guess I'm planning. And we'll see how that comes to fruition, but I'm excited. I hope you'll be excited too. Some dogs do too. A lot of them do. It's okay, Crystal. I was just saying how I also slept in today, so you're in good company. We were rated by Phil Tomato. Phil Tomato? Oh, would anyone care to explain, introduce me to this tomato? Well, it was well deserved. Yeah, I've never heard of Phil Tomato, actually. Glad you had a good time, though. Always so happy to see you. Dude, dude, dude. Give my regards to all 3 of your members. Also give hugs. Oh, no worries. I hope the stream isn't too delayed for everyone. It's happened before. Have this hug, Crystal. He's a talented artist and his stream's lots of fun. Cool. Okay, okay. Well, thanks, Phil. I would shout him out, but I assume he's still not lurking. I don't want to misspell the name. Someone can verify what his name is. Shout him out. Thanks, Crystal. Great. Okay. Well, again, a pleasure to have you all here. We'll be ending in about 20 minutes. Oh, that looks pretty good. Yeah, I do like that. Cool. I guess in this case the duel should go in front. And the grease fish. Oh yeah, grease fish. Looks like the grease fish has to go in front. The organization stuff. Well, it's 20 more minutes of enjoying your art, and it's 20 more minutes of enjoying your presence, dear Howling Riot. Oh yeah, I forgot you started an hour earlier. Yes, yes, daylight savings and all that. Oh, can't forget the pillory. Oh, pillory! There he is. The pillory can go in front too. And then the Auroch. I'm pretty happy with the Auroch design. I think it has a really good flow to it. The Tarpan is almost certain. Well, I guess it can go in the front, yeah. I'm pretty happy with the Tarpan design as well. This has come a long way, actually. I think the Tarpan had a lot of trouble early on. And the Moa is going to be kind of in the background, isn't it? Well, that's okay. It's the largest thing. Moa! interesting. They kind of move upwards. Well, they don't really. That's all the animals. What do you guys think? Yes, yes, yes. Oh, I know what you mean, Jill. What do you think of the animals, though? I'm pretty happy with these. I think I will expand the canvas a little bit more, though, just to get all of them in there. Tarpan should probably be in front of the Auroch here. Actually, new idea. What if the Tarpan goes behind the Moa after all? Kind of like the Moa more. Yeah, I think this looks better. They look like they could throw a wild party. I like that. I like that. Let's move the Moa down a little bit. Auroch likewise. Likewise. Yeah. Do you ever try drawing an extinct animal, Howling Riot? Fascinating little thing. I mean, these are all fantasy versions of the extinct animals, but I've been having a lot of fun with this. Okay. Anyways, back to fonts. The riveting content I know you're all here for. Oh yes. These should be on the same layer. These should all be on the same layer, actually. Oh, thanks for the follow, Mermaid Phoenicia. Do you prefer Mermaid or Phoenicia? Really appreciate that. Like I said, it's not always an animal drawing stream, so just bear it in mind, but I'd love to continue having you. We'll be on again Friday, by the way, if anyone is curious. We'll be on Friday at this time, and we'll be doing more environment drawing. You don't mind? Phoenicia? Nah. Okay, there we go. I think we can just take the smaller version of the same thing for the sea, but we'll keep the crystal out of it to distinguish them. Cool. You can use both. No stream tomorrow? Got it. Yes, no stream tomorrow. No stream tomorrow. Oh, I forgot to mention, I know the schedule says there's a stream on Saturday, but we're probably moving that to Sunday. So no Saturday stream, Sunday stream. I will change the schedule to reflect that. And yes, for those of you who are curious about the schedule, it is usually going to be listed in our Discord, !Discord, if you're curious to come by again. We'd love to have you. Yeah, I'd forgotten to mention that, so glad that that came up in conversation. Okay, there we go. Oops. Oh no. Wait, what the heck? I'm completely wrong layer there. I don't think that's a wrong layer because I didn't like draw on it. No exclamation point wrong layer, but It wasn't the right layer, so I'll leave that for you guys to judge. We have a wrong layer command if you want to take advantage of that. Okay, so we'll move all of this over just a tad. Well, I think I'll make this R a little bigger. I love vectors. Oh man, I love that. I just realized this. If the title is Crystallic Auto Rail, what does that abbreviate to, everybody? Oh, thank you, Jill. I'm actually really happy. I've just been making it up here. Car! You guys want to play some car? Like, it's kind of funny, memey, but it's also very memorable. So I'm actually pretty happy with that. Merge layers, size 5. Yeah, right? Man, I haven't seen Mino in a long time. I hope he's doing all right.